we have just kind of a short amount of time to make these. And I've noticed on YouTube that some people are making very elaborate, very, very nice. We're not going to go to that way because this is an easier way for you to make some nice looking tombstones without spending an arm and a leg in money and an arm and a leg in time and everything else. But what we did, we went to Walmart and picked up some standard tombstones, probably not even an inch thick. But to make an enhanced version of these, if you take some styrofoam, and this is just about an inch and a half styrofoam, and use that as a backing for the tombstones that come out of the store at a very reasonable price. What you can do is just go ahead and glue the tombstone onto the styrofoam, and it gives you a lot more depth. You've got a lot more 3D opportunity and what have you. So what we're trying to do here is get some height. You can see this is not real tall, but by attaching it to the foam, you can actually maneuver it and make it as large as you want. What we've decided to do today is to make it larger by putting another piece, a smaller piece, just right on top. And these again will be glued on, and we're going to go ahead and enhance the top. This will be our top line here. We'll carve that out, and so that should look real nice when it's all said and done. Now the next step, obviously, and I probably should have done this before I glued, but we can work around that. What we're going to do is rough up the edges. Have you ever seen a tombstone that's 100 years old that's nice and smooth? No. You just take it like this with the end of the knife. You just scrape it. You can use sandpaper, however you want to do it. It comes out beautifully, and it gives you that weathered look. And it looks like it's 150 years old. So we're going to do that on all sides. And you don't necessarily have to do it on your base, but here's our base here. If you want to rough it up a little bit, no problem. It takes a second. You don't need to spend a whole lot of time on it. Some people do. I don't. My famous saying is close enough for government work, but we do want to make it work. It's effective, it's scary, and we didn't have to spend a whole lot of money doing it or a whole lot of time. Does that make sense? I think so. So what we're going to do is continue roughing this up, just like that. And now we have to cut our top line out. And that's always a little tricky. I use just a carpet knife. It seems to work fine. A lot of people invest in all kinds of tools to make it a whole lot easier. If you run that carpet knife on here, it's not going to give you a clean edge, but that's okay. You don't want it to be a clean edge. This is a 150-year-old tombstone. It's been sitting there for a long time. A lot of weather, a lot of animals on it, bugs, you name it. So what we're going to do is just cut a line out like that with our carpet knife, and also have a Bowie knife right here, nice and sharp. What we're going to do is just kind of run that through here. We can get a nice crease in there. Yeah. There are some foams that are out there that are a little easier to work with. The green is not the easiest, but it works just as well. It's just a little harder to cut sometimes. So I just keep doing like this, and it'll get thinner in there. Pretty soon you can just snap it, and it's going to come right off. Do a little bit more here. You can hear it popping in there. That means it's starting to snap. And don't worry about it being smooth. Smooth is not good when you're making these tombstones. Again, rough and ready is the way I like to say. Rough and ready. We get a lot of them done in a short amount of time. We got a lot of time before Halloween, so we want to make sure that we're ready. Now, see if we can get this to pop right off. Okay, we'll put that over here so we don't get styrofoam all over the place. Got that one over here for another tombstone. So you can kind of see what we've done here. We've got the top line, and we're going to go ahead and add this. So we got a nice tombstone, a big tombstone made out of very small ones that really can enhance your display. The biggest thing though when you make a display, we're not going to go into it today, lighting. You need to have lighting at the base of the tombstone. I don't care what kind of tombstone it is. You want to make sure that there's a light. It can be just a small, like an appliance light, anything to give a nice warm glow up here. So yes, you want to make sure that you cover the whole tombstone when you do that. If you don't have lighting, it's not going to look good. So that's what we're going to do. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to, now that we got this all roughed up and ready to go, I'm going to rough up the top line a little bit. Then we'll go ahead and glue this piece. And the next thing, we put concrete on it, or sackcrete. Just, again, nothing fancy. Just rub it in there, rub it in there, rub it in there. Let it dry. Now you don't want to put the sackcrete on there until your glue is dry. So you got to give a little bit of time for that. So right now, let's go ahead and see if we can get this glued in. Now we use this Super 77 3M. Works pretty good. I've used it pretty well all day today and it hasn't been that messy. So what I'm going to do here, the best way to do it is to make sure you put it on the back of the pieces you're going to be gluing real nice, and then also kind of put it on the area that you're going to be gluing it to. And you don't have to wait too long. Some people wait minutes, some people wait even longer than that. I found that just a couple seconds almost, and you can go ahead and place that in there. Now this one, we're going to go ahead and push it back to the other piece so we can get a nice contact there. You just want to press it down like that and you're good to go on that. So the other thing I have to do is rough up my top piece. Again, these are old, right? The older you have, the older your graveyard is going to be, the more rough edges you're going to want to have on there. If you don't have the rough edges, it just won't look good. It'll look like you went to a dollar store and picked them up. But you can take those dollar store ones that are only like $1.25, even though it's the dollar store, they're $1.25. You can go ahead and use those and put those on the same format. You can make tombstones as large as you want to. So there we have it. We've done everything except for the sackcrete, and that has to get mixed up, and then I'll be putting that on sometime tomorrow. I want to let this dry real good, and once that's dried real well, we'll go ahead and put the sackcrete on there. Once the sackcrete is on there and that dries, all you have to do, you can paint it any way you want. You can put different things on it. You can put moss. You can put any little ornament that you want to put on here to dress it up. But the biggest thing is the lighting. Put a light at the base. Let the tombstone glow in the dark. That's the thing. Here's a couple that we've made already today, and this didn't take me very long, not at all. So we have this. This one, the sackcrete, is already starting to dry. It's not totally dry. When this is dry, we're going to paint that with a gray, but we don't want it all to be consistent. We want it blotchy. The blotchier the better. Probably dress it up with a little moss or something that might be growing in the graveyard. If you got any mice or anything running around your house, they're nice to put on there. Just kidding. And here's another one here. Nothing fancy. Just a smaller tombstone. Put it on a backing with the styrofoam, and all you're ready to go. Once that's painted, put a little base on it or find some way to hold it up so it doesn't blow over on you. And there's many different ways you can do on that. I'm not going to get into that. You have your own imagination on what you can do there. A lot of people put bricks on there. They put spikes. They put PVC pipe in there and then put a rod in there. I don't go to that extreme. There's too many more important things to do. Okay, so there you have it. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you another time. Maybe we'll get together and show you another tombstone down the road. Well, hello everybody. We're making tombstones for Halloween 2023. And what we're trying to do is create tombstones that have a large presence, but we're just dealing with smaller tombstones. So these came from Walmart, and you can see they're not real big, but the way to actually make them bigger is to mount them on foam styrofoam insulation. Now this is the green, there's others that you could use, pink, purple, you name it. We've got some green on hand, so we're going to use that up right now. And eventually what you're going to see, we're going to go ahead and take another very small piece and add it to the larger piece that we got at Walmart. But you have to actually carve it out, because this was actually perfectly straight right here. And that would not work well with the crested top of the tombstone that we have. So what we've done is carve that out, and that will be placed in here, and we'll actually be gluing all of that off with the 3M Super 77, which seems to be the best glue for this kind of a project. So this is what it's going to look like when we're all done. And now we may go ahead and modify the top to give it a little bit more presence of the styrofoam, because that creates a little bit of a 3D effect. And once the tombstones are all done, you want to make sure that you place a light on the base of the tombstone, shining on the tombstone when you have your graveyard. If you don't have light, nobody's going to see it. It won't look that good. If you have the light there, take a look at Walt Disney. When they do their displays, they always make sure that their tombstones are well lit and everybody can see it. So that's what we're going to do. That's our project. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this styrofoam and we're going to move this off to the side for just right now. Because the thing is, this styrofoam has got sharp edges. Have you ever seen a tombstone 150 years old that has sharp edges? No. They're all roughed up, and sometimes the rougher the better. So what we're going to do, we're just going to take a sharp knife, and I always just take the back of the knife and just kind of rough it up, almost bevel. You can bevel the edges a little bit, and don't worry if it doesn't look, fancy, because actually the rougher the tombstone is, the more aged it's going to look. So there's no science to this. And I've seen people work on these things on YouTube. They're doing, projects after project, and they're all well and good, but we don't have a whole lot of time, and we didn't want to go ahead and invest that time, or money for that matter, in creating those, because Halloween is just coming right up. So what we're going to do right now is just rough this up, and then we're going to go ahead and start with our actual tombstone and getting that tombstone on our foam insulation. Okay, so with that, we'll take a quick break, and we will come back and get our tombstone glued on here for you. Okay, we're back. What we've done, we left off where we were taking our edges of the styrofoam piece, and we roughed it up. And there is no science to that. It's just a matter of roughing it up. I think the rougher the better. Remember, these have been around for, your tombstones are going to be around for 150 years in your haunted graveyard. Well, I've never seen any with a smooth edge, so that's the reason we did that. So just to refresh your memory, what we're going to do is just take a smaller tombstone, one we got at Walmart, but you can get it at any of the stores, just smaller, but without spending an awful lot of money, you can actually create a larger tombstone, like what we've done here, just taking a smaller piece that came with the package, and we're going to attach it right here to the bottom portion of the tombstone. And now you've got a nice tombstone here, good height. Now what we're going to have to do, however, we're going to have to cut our top edge. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We don't want too much out here and on top. Just so you know, there's a little bit of an edge on the, or a little bit of a carryover on the bottom portion. That's for your base. You can go ahead and attach a base many different ways. A lot of people might want to insert this into another piece of styrofoam. Some people use bricks, some people use wire, PVC, and they also will use rebar to keep them from flying away in a heavy wind. And hopefully we won't have any. Now this is a base piece we could do. You could go ahead and put a base in there, cut a slot in here, and put your tombstone right in that slot, and you've got a nice base, and hopefully that'll stay up through the entire night. Now, what we've done, we've seen our tombstone here. What we had to do is create an outline to kind of mark where our end of our cement tombstone is going to be. So all we did was just take a piece of another tombstone and just trace freehand, or you just use that as a tracer, and that way it gives you a nice line there where you can go ahead and cut that. That's going to be the next thing that we have to do, is we have to go ahead and cut this, and we don't have any fancy tools here. All we're using is a carpet knife and a Bowie knife. So again, nothing that elaborate. You can do this at home, and it doesn't take that much effort to do it, and you can make some pretty nice tombstones. So what we're going to do, I'm going to start cutting this, and I'm just going to take it real easy. You don't want to cut it too much. Take it real slow. And the process, the farther you get in, the easier it's going to be. So we're just going to do that. Now I'm going to take a break now, and we'll be right back after I cut this, and then we'll show you the next step. Thank you. Okay, now you can see we're completed now with our cutout on top for our tombstone. We're ready to go to the next step, which is just basically taking, again, our smaller tombstones, and we're going to be gluing them right on our foam insulation. And from there, we're also going to add a smaller piece that came with the set, and we're going to go ahead and insert that right on top of this particular one. This one had to be carved out. As you can see, this one actually was straight. So all of this had to be carved out to match our tombstone here. So this is the way it's going to look. So what we're going to do, however, we're going to start with the bottom portion of the tombstone. So what we're going to do is try to get it as centered as possible. A little bit of variation is fine. If you want to measure it, that's a-okay. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to line it up on this line right here. And I'm going to try and get it as even on either side. And the way to do it is, we found out this 3M Super 77 spray works excellent. So first off, you want to go ahead and spray it where the tombstone is actually going to be placed on the board. You can do that, but we're also going to take the back side and spray that as well. And we're going to let that just dry just momentarily. Some people let it dry longer. That's a-okay. I found that it really doesn't matter as long as it's dry. So we're going to go ahead and line that up. And just place that once it's placed. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Tombstones that are 150 years old, like I said before, are not perfect. And actually, the more perfect they are, the more they look like you bought it at a store. So we're trying to make it look unique, authentic, without spending a lot of money. So that one's in place. So after that, we'll go ahead and take our secondary piece, the top portion, and we'll do basically the same thing. We'll just kind of lay it down here. What we want to do is add a little bit of glue right here where that piece is underneath, and then on the back side. So that's what we'll go ahead and do right now. And again, it's not imperative that you get it exact. As long as it meets it and it looks good. And once it's in place, you just press it down. And that's what it's going to look like. Now the next step is we have to wait until the glue is dry, but we're going to be putting concrete or sackcrete on here. We're going to rub it in here to get a little bit of a grainy effect to the tombstone area, and then we're going to go ahead and let that dry. Once that concrete sackcrete is dry, we can then go ahead and paint it for any detail that you want to do. But what we're going to do now tonight is let this dry. Tomorrow we'll do the sackcrete. We'll show you what it comes out the next time. Now I will show you what we did earlier today. We've made several tombstones, and once again, they're very, very nice looking when you combine the smaller tombstone with another tombstone to create a larger tombstone effect. So that's one there. This is also waiting for sackcrete and painting. And we have one that we could show you that has had the sackcrete However, it is still drying, so we cannot paint. Here's one right here. You can kind of see the effect of that. The concrete starts to come through. This will dry a little bit lighter. Once it's dry, then we can go ahead and paint it. But it gives you a nice effect. And once they're in the graveyard or the cemetery that you're going to be making, they look a lot more authentic. And it's a lot of fun making them, so good luck with that. So we'll go put our saccharine on there tomorrow. Until then, we will see you.
Real close. After we get that.
That was good. Okay, we're back again. Where we left you last time, we've got everything glued on here for a larger tombstone. Small, large, put them together, you get a larger. And what we're going to do now, after we've rubbed up the edges, glued everything on, we're going to go ahead and put a combination of concrete patch along with some latex gray paint. And what we're going to do with that, you can see we've already mixed this up here, created a nice mud. We're going to go ahead and plaster or put that mud all over our tombstone, front and back, and then we're going to go ahead and let it dry, and then we'll go ahead and decorate it a little bit further with maybe some colored paint, various things like moss or whatever else you want for your graveyard. So it's very, very easy. You can take a look over here. There's one that was just done. It's drying at this point. So that will be ready to be dressed up a little bit more after that dries. It usually takes a good evening, probably a good 12 hours to dry. Then you can go ahead and start decorating further. Now, let's take a look at our consistency here. You don't really want this to be too thin, and you don't want it to be too thick. So I would say that looks sort of like, what, applesauce maybe? Oh, it's making me hungry. Okay, what we're going to do with that, I like to start with a brush actually, and you can kind of get it in your small areas here around the crease of the foam insulation and the tombstone itself. So you get a nice start to it. It's almost like painting a house. You want to get the trim first, and then you can go ahead and get the walls after that. It's a little tedious. Some of the others I have experimented just taking a glob of this and putting it in your hand and rubbing it in with your fingers. But we're trying to do this one a little bit neater. So we're going to use the brush first. Either way, it'll probably come out, fairly well. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other side as well. And this is actually kind of the fun part. You can get your hands dirty. It's not that difficult, and you can just have a little fun with it. Get that right along our base here. This is part of the base, but we're still going to go ahead and put the mud on that. Okay, now I'm going to go up the other side here, and I'm going to fill in the creases along this side. And good to get a lot on there. You can always come back and thin it out if you want to later, as long as it's not dried. But it goes on very quickly. And this is the piece actually that was being entered into a contest. So we want to make sure that we do it well. And you can kind of see that, you can kind of look around, you can kind of see I'm covering all of the cracks. And by the way, I am using gloves, as you can see, just your regular medical gloves, the kind that the doctors put on and you go, uh-oh, is that for me? Yes, it is. So here we go. Got that pretty well covered all the way along. At this point, you have a choice. You can use a brush continually. The brush is going to give you a nice thin application, like this. Or you may want to just stick your hand in here and then just start globbing it on. I usually do that during the back. Doesn't have to be quite so tedious. But we'll go ahead and make this a finer piece. This particular gravestone is going to go on one of the wealthier person in our graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and make it as nice and neat as possible. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and continue this. What we can do now, we're just going to take a break and we'll come right on back after I got the whole thing done and you can take a look at that. Okay, now we've got all of our mud all around our tombstone. And by the way, in other ones I've said saccrete. Actually, this is just mixture of concrete, ready-made concrete, and latex paint. And you get a nice even flow on that. And again, you can make it as thick as you want. You can do anything you want. Now what we're going to do, however, we're just about done. We're going to go ahead and continue putting mud all over the back, and then we'll be all ready to go for further decorations, different things like moss, any other paraphernalia that you find that looks like Halloween. You can go ahead and do that. Remember, we did go ahead and put a seal on here, so we put a little extra mud in there. That'll go ahead and seal up any cracks that you have between this piece and that piece. So there you have it, folks. Have fun making your tombstones. We're going to continue making a few more as time does allow. Thank you very much, folks. See you next time. Now for the back side, I'm not quite as tedious as far as getting this on here. I'm just going to go ahead and use my hands, because it also, by doing your hand like that and just rubbing it on down, it creates a not concrete, but it makes it look like granite or real stone. If you make it too wavy, it might not look authentic. So you just go ahead and slap it on. How easy it goes on. Plus, this is fun. Get your hands dirty. But I would recommend using gloves as you see me wearing. It goes on very quick. Once this is on, I'll go back and touch up the edges, because the edges are the hardest part to keep consistent. But we'll go ahead and do that. It's not a big deal. Just takes a little bit more time, but getting the mud on there goes very, very easy. And I like to just kind of run it down like that, because if you're looking at the back of a tombstone, it's probably going to look more like this and have it all wavy and what have you. So that's it on that. So we're getting really close. Getting close to Halloween, but we're also getting close to finishing up this particular tombstone. And this one is going to be entered in a contest. Brenda is doing this particular one. I volunteered to go ahead and put the mud on here for her. But she's the one that is in control of this particular piece. And so we'll have a contest. We'll see who wins. So there you go, folks. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention, as you're making your tombstones, if you have any smaller pieces that you think are just going to throw them away, probably a good idea to maybe hang on to them. You can make some smaller tombstones with it to go along with your larger ones. So in our case here, what we're going to do is probably just go ahead and piece one of these small dollar store pieces onto this. Not everybody had large tombstones back then. So you want to go ahead and mix it up, and this would be a nice way to do it. And you get a nice effect, a little bit thicker. So you make good use of some smaller tombstones that you're not going to be doing or using. So I've already roughed this up again, and I'm just getting ready to glue it. But as I rough it up, I may use some sandpaper to get some of the loose pieces off. If you don't have any sandpaper, you can just get a kitchen scrubber. That works out pretty good. Just mainly just gets all the stuff. You're never going to get it all off. And actually having some on there just weathers your tombstone for you. So there we have it. Don't forget to use your small pieces, and we're going to go ahead and glue this on, and we'll see you later. Okay, here's our grand finale. Here's all of the tombstones that we have made just in the matter of a couple of days. And you can see those nice variety. Now let's get a close-up view here. This one right here. A lot of skulls on it. Very nice, a lot of detail. Now we have this one here, tombstone with the skull on top. Very nice. And we have a little smaller one here. Rest in peace, blue. With the Grim Reaper. Another blue tone. And this one here has a nice cross on the top. And a skeleton. And this one here, a little bit lighter color, real nice, shows very well. A nice piece of work. And there you have it. That's our larger tombstones that we did in just the last couple of days. So all of our videos point to the fact that we wanted to make them look realistic, but not spend an arm and a leg or a lot of time doing it. And this kind of gives you an idea of what we've done. So there you have it. And thanks for watching the videos. Till then, bye-bye. And we thought we'd just kind of show you what we did with some scrap insulation. We just kind of, they were almost too small for a tombstone, but we made them fit and creates a nice little variety for the cemetery. So there you have it. So all told, we have 8 tombstones to add to our collection. So there we are. Until then, see ya.